What's up, everyone, and welcome to Making the Shift for Autistic Kids.
We're an SLP couple from California with 4 boys.
And we're here every week to bring you neuroaffirming tips, tricks, and tools.
Are you ready to make the shift?
Let's do this.
Hello. Welcome to Making the Shift. If you want to talk about goals that should be canceled for autistic kids, then you are in the right place. That is what we are talking about today. You can see if you're here on video, I'm wearing my neurodiversity-affirming Dad's Club shirt because mine, which said moms, I have outgrown getting more and more pregnant by the day, and I am almost popping out of this one, which is Chris's. So, need to size up for next week. Okay, so today we are talking about goals that should be canceled. We are going to be talking about goals that are not neurodiversity affirming and what we can do instead. Now, these are goals that came directly from goal banks that are shared all the time. So what I was noticing is that on Facebook this week, I've just been really into like scrolling the feeds and looking at what people are asking. And I was noticing some people asking about goals and saying, does anyone have any goal banks? I really want to find some new goals. And I was clicking through the goal banks that people were sharing, and these are free goals that you can get online, right? They're free goal banks. And I was just like, oh my God, these are terrible. These need to go away. And the fact that like they're even getting posted to be considered, like I feel like if you're going to share that, it needs to be disclaimer. A lot of these aren't neurodiversity affirming. Like a lot of these banks have different goals for, receptive language, expressive language, social, and obviously it's mostly the social pragmatic goals that are the problem. But it's like, I feel like need a disclaimer when we're going to share some of these websites. So today I am reading you goals that are straight from these websites. And we're going to talk about if they are neurodiversity affirming or not. If you are here with me live, I want you to vote if this is a goal that you would say is neurodiversity affirming or not. And we're going to talk about what we could do instead. Okay, so let me pull these up. I have all of these screenshotted on my phone. Okay, so first goal. Child will label emotions in pictures with 80% accuracy. And these goals were all longer. I cut off like the cue portions. Okay, but the goal is child will label emotions in pictures. What do you guys think? Neurodiversity affirming or no? Okay, I'm gonna go with this goal should be canceled. Here's why. So many of us, if you've been around, you have done those activities with kids where you hold up those huge face pictures and you're like, how's this person feeling? How do you know they're feeling that way? Oh yeah, their brows are furrowed. They must be angry, right? The thing is that like, yes, there are certain ways to tell what people are feeling through their emotions, but the reality is that faces don't always say what the emotion is. You can be so mad at someone. You could be so mad at your friend. You could be so mad at your partner and be smiling, right? Or just be like flat affect, like they would never know that you're right? So it's just that what we know about autistic kids is that emotions can be challenging, and that labeling emotions in other people as well as identifying them in themselves, and that usually and likely comes down to difficulties with interoception, which is feeling all of the sensations within our body. Okay, because when we are scared, we know what that feels like. Like our heart is pounding maybe, and we feel this tension in our shoulders. Like we have a way that our body tells us that we're scared, and we can feel those things. And to us, we start to learn over time, heart pounding, tense shoulders equals scared or anxious, whatever that might be. Like we don't all experience emotions in the same way, but what happens is you experience these feelings, these sensations in your body, and then you can assume or you learn over time that that equals this other emotion word, and we start using the emotion word. Okay, but a lot of autistic kids will have trouble being able to feel those sensations, identify what those sensations are, interpret what those sensation means. So to me, we're just like a goal like that is only going to teach kids rote memorization of emotions. Like, I want you to look happy. And then we practice smiling together. Do you guys remember doing that? Like, I know I've done that in therapy where we literally practice different facial expressions. Okay. But it's like we don't want to teach kids to put on an act to try to show that they're feeling a certain way. Like, it's okay if they don't have this crazy big smile on their face when they're happy, right? They don't need to look like open mouth, wide eyes when they're shocked. Like they could still be shocked without displaying that. So a lot of the times the problem with this goal, it's not that we don't want kids to understand emotions and feelings. It's just that a goal written in this way often leads to us teaching it in more of like a rote way, when in reality, a better thing to do would be to either focus on helping a child to understand the sensations that they're having in their body, or helping them to do some more perspective taking and like talking about emotions and how someone could be feeling something, but it could be, they could be smiling, but they could be feeling scared, or they could be feeling angry even though they're smiling. So more like perspective taking stuff. Okay. So I would say canceling the labeling emotions based off pictures goal. Okay. Next goal is that child will label a problem size. Small, medium, or big. We've all done this too. And I want to say that, like, these are programs created by well-intentioned people who are trying to help neurodivergent kids, and that is honorable and great. Okay. So I just want to start off by saying that. Okay. What we have learned is that it's very hard to decide what size someone's problem should be. Okay. I posted this on social media maybe like a year or two ago about how I have this mug. It's from Denny's, if you've been there. And it's a snowman mug where you used to pour hot water in it and the snowman would melt. And I've had it since I was probably 5 years old. And now I have it in my house. And I do freak out because Chris likes to eat ice cream out of this mug. And he happens to be an ADHDer who like leaves lots of cups on the edge, laptops on the edge, rarely gets the cup all the way onto the table. And I think if that were to ever break, that would not be a small problem for me. I would be so upset. But to him, he would be like, oh, it's a mug. Go get a new mug. But it's like, to me, that's a huge problem. So the thing is that, like, we just can't tell someone how big or small their problem is. That's not our decision that we get to make. It's theirs. So, overall, getting rid of size of the problem goals. Okay, here's another one. Child will monitor and modify his or her behavior to keep his body and brain in the group. Okay, brain, keep your brain in the group. Like, I get what they're trying to say. They're trying to say pay attention, but it's still a weirdly worded goal. Okay, so are we canceling that goal or keeping it? And the consensus is canceling. Okay, the point is, okay, so this says the child will monitor and modify their behavior to keep their body and brain in the group. Okay, which I feel like are completely separate. But we don't want to force kids to stay in the group. Like if a kid needs to move, they need to move, right? Are you ever doing something else while having a conversation with someone? Like maybe you're talking to them, but you're also cleaning your room and you're going back and forth and you're still able to talk to them without keeping your body right in the center of the conversation, right? But that's just an example of we might be doing two things at once. But also, we just don't want to force kids to sit still in a group if it's uncomfortable for their body. We want to teach them more about what their body needs, and we want to teach them to advocate for those needs. So if they don't want to be standing in that group or sitting in that group, helping them to advocate for, hey, do you mind if I go take a walk and then I'll come back? Or is it okay if I stand up? Or is it okay if I sit on this yoga ball instead of in the chair? Right? So we want to have them advocate for whatever those needs are in their bodies. All right. Here's another one. Another goal. Child will use greetings and farewells. That's funny. Greetings and farewells by looking and verbalizing, or by waving hi or goodbye. Cancel or keep? I would say cancel. And here's why. Personally, for one, I don't think greeting goals are very, and this is my personal opinion, okay? But I have written a lot of them in the past. Don't anymore. I just don't think they're very, it doesn't make sense to me to have a greeting goal because there's only two opportunities to practice that in a session. There's the greeting and there's the goodbye, right? Other than that, it's just like, unless you're role playing, and in that case, you're just like creating this fake setup, which is fine. Role playing, there's nothing wrong with role playing, but like, it's really hard to get an accurate representation, an accurate picture of if a child is greeting or saying goodbye without them actually doing it in real life. And a lot of kids don't want to leave, right? With our sessions, because why would they? So they're not going to be like happily saying goodbye at the end of the session. They're probably like trying to convince you to play one more game or let them take a toy home, right? So it's like not the time to work on that. So I just think from a logistics standpoint, it's very hard, very few opportunities, and I don't love that about it. But also this is saying that they have to look at someone and verbalize or wave. Okay, so the goal says look is step one, verbalize and or wave is step two. Okay, so anytime that we are forcing a child to look or to do something is not a goal that we would consider neurodiversity affirming. Like, there's plenty of times where you probably have like walked away from someone, and then as you're walking away, you're like, see you later. Or maybe you turn, but you don't look them in the eye. You know, it's like we don't have to do both of those things in order to have a successful hello, goodbye. So I just don't love that. Okay. Next goal, and I bet you'll get this one quick. Should we cancel or keep? Which is child will use appropriate eye contact during a conversational exchange. And we are canceling. I don't have to go into detail on this. I know we've talked about this a lot. We don't write eye contact for goals for autistic kids. Eye contact can be really uncomfortable for them. Eye contact is not necessary for communication. Eye contact is something that is very different culturally, depending on where you are, if you need it or not. And it's a neurotypical norm that we don't have to place on our autistic kids, right? So we don't need to have a goal for appropriate eye contact. Like, we can have a goal for a child checking in when they hear their name being called, for a safety measure or something like that, which I still wouldn't write that goal, but like that might be more of a type of goal that would be more ND-affirming for like more of the behavioral side. I know there's a lot of goals regarding safety. So like checking in might be a goal, or like glancing, referencing someone, but not just like making eye contact during an entire conversational exchange. Okay. Next, child will use age-appropriate vocal characteristics, and in parentheses, intonation and volume. What do you guys think about that goal? Cancel or keep? Child will use age-appropriate vocal characteristics, intonation and volume. I personally would say cancel. No surprise there. Why? Because again, this is a neurotypical norm that we are trying to force on kids. Is like, and first of all, what is age appropriate? Like, what does that even mean? That means you're not screaming when you're talking to someone? I don't get it. Okay, I used to have this boy, and he had such a sing-song inflection in his voice. And a lot of our Gestalt language processors do, we know, but like he would just talk and everything was up and down and it was like a song. And he was not singing, but it was like, that wasn't a very good impression. But it was like everything was very, very much like heavy intonation. And I remember his mom asking, like, are you going to work on that in therapy? And he went to a clinic that did an intensive where they actually did work on that in therapy. But to me, I was like, I would never work on that because it's not relevant. Like, the concern was more judgment from other people, right? But like, um, that is his way of expressing himself. Like, that is a unique quality, that's authentic to him. And I think that as he grows, and he was young at the time, but I think like as he grows, he will learn that he can control that and he can change it if he wants to control it. But like, it's not my goal for him to have him eliminate it. So don't love that. Um, the volume one is tricky because I know plenty of adults who have trouble monitoring their volume, right? So, these are conversations we can have with kids about perspective taking and, how would you feel if your friend came up to you and were yelling in your face like so loud? Do you think that would be comfortable for you or not? But ultimately, like we're talking about this perspective and we're not telling them, don't do this. I'm assuming for the most part it's volume, right? Because like I don't think you would ever write a goal for a kid who is speaking too soft. At least that's not necessarily true. But when I'm thinking of the kids I've worked with, it's usually they're being too loud concern that I hear more often than they're being too quiet. So you can still have conversations with them and talk to them without making this like your goal to change the way that their voice is coming across. Okay, I have 3 more here for you guys. So here we go. This one is a hot one. Let's see if you think we should cancel or keep. Okay, child will maintain the topic of conversation for insert number of conversational turns. Keeping or canceling. Child will maintain the topic of conversation for a certain number of conversational turns. Okay, a lot of people get upset about this one when I say I would cancel it. Okay, but hear me out. Hear me out. What people say is, but you need a kid to be able to have conversations. Okay, great. So instead of maintaining this topic for a certain number of turns, why don't you create a goal for self-advocacy, right? So the child will self-advocate for topic changes, for example, um, to initiate on a topic of interest. Okay, so there are ways you can do it where it's not like you're forcing them into the situation where you're counting how many turns they're going back and forth, but you're teaching them that if someone brings up a conversation and you have no interest, it's totally fine to advocate to change that topic of conversation, right? So, like, if you came up to me and I'm trying to think of something I would have no interest in hearing about. What do I dislike? I don't know. Like, if you came up to me, I don't want to upset anyone and said, like, oh, did you see the motocross tournament, if that's what it's even called? Right? This weekend. It was so cool. Like, I don't need to feel like I have to engage in conversation about that. Instead, I could be like, oh, no, I didn't see it. I've actually never been that into motocross, but are you into football? Did you see that Monday night football game? Right? So it's like there's a way to keep a conversation flowing without it needing to stay on the topic of the person who was introduced. But a lot of times that's how we would teach it. And back in the day, I just have so many so many memories of teaching kids like you need to stay on topic. And the truth is, when kids find a topic they love and a conversational partner who loves that topic too, this goal becomes irrelevant because they're going to have a great back and forth conversation without you having to prompt them through it because it's interesting to them and they want to talk about it. So I think self-advocacy is a lot more important in that case. Okay. Next goal, there's 2 more. Child will demonstrate expected behaviors while waiting his or her turn. I was going to say I hate it, but I was going to give you guys the opportunity to say if you need to cancel it. But let's just say let's cancel this goal, right? Child will demonstrate expected behaviors while waiting his or her turn. I don't like this goal for so many reasons. One is I don't like the word expected because it's not defined. Like, what is okay to do when you're waiting for your turn? Like, is it okay to be on your phone? Is it okay to be like scratching your arm? Is it okay to be picking your nose? Like, what are these things that are okay versus not okay when you're waiting? And also, again, this is another thing where if we make a therapy goal on this, now all of a sudden we're going to create opportunities in the session to make the child wait. Like, why do we want to force the child to be waiting just so that we could take data on this goal? Okay. But obviously, the biggest problem with this is that we are telling them what they have to do as opposed to letting their bodies do what naturally feels good to them. Like, I don't know about you guys. I hate waiting in line. Like, if I have to wait in line and stand, I'm miserable. I like to sit. So, like, I will be the person who is like, if I have to wait in a long line, I will actually sit on the ground. That's not expected. I'm like the only person sitting on the ground, but like, I don't care because my body wants to sit, right? So instead, we want to teach our kids to listen to what their body needs. This kind of goes back to what we were talking about a few minutes ago, is helping them advocate for what their sensory needs are and doing what's comfortable for them. And of course, again, this doesn't mean that we can't have conversations about perspective taking. Like, if there was a line of people and one person was sitting down, what do you think those people might be thinking about the person sitting down? She's tired. Yes, always. Her feet hurt. Yes, always. She's bored. Yes, right? Like, we could still have conversations about what the perspective is without telling them like what they have to do and what they can or cannot do. Ultimately, we want them to make the decision, and that's what the purpose is of the goal is to, of the neurodiversity affirming goals, is to help them to make those decisions. Okay, last one, and this one is on the topic of play. Here we go. Last one, keep or cancel. Child will play with toys using their appropriate function. Keep or cancel. If you guys know me and you've listened to past episodes, you already know I'm going to say cancel. Okay, play with toys using their appropriate function. I'm a big believer that play equals what is fun for the child. And if lining up cars is fun, that is play. They don't have to race them down the ramp. A while back, I told a story of when I was little, how I had this huge tub of Barbies and I would take them out and I would spend hours setting up the house, setting up the furniture, and I would place all the Barbies around the house and then I would just put them back. I wouldn't actually play with them, like, quote, play. I wouldn't like have them go, hey, my name's Barbie, let's go party, right? That wasn't part of my play. It was just setting them up. So is that not play? Like, is that not appropriate? Right. And then it's funny because I posted about that story and so many people were like, oh my God, I did that too. Right. But like, who is to say what's appropriate? Play should be fun for a child. And I just think that if therapist is struggling to engage a child in play, it's probably because we're not figuring out something that is motivating enough for them. We are not taking their sensory needs into consideration. And we're not maybe thinking out of the box enough or being flexible enough. Like, there's so much we can do. Like, I've never found this to be a problem. I found kids develop so many different types of play skills if we can make sure they're regulated and they're engaged and they're motivated in the activity. Then we're going to have an amazing time and we're going to be playing and it's going to be interactive in a lot of different ways. So I just personally would not write a goal like that. So I've talked about this, I'll say it again, but the main goals that we write in our clinic, because we don't write, a lot of these goals are super specific. And I know some insurance funding and stuff requires that. And obviously the goals I write in our clinic for our little kids are going to be different than like what Chris writes in a high school for older students, right? But in our clinic, we have a lot of goals. Like, total communication is a very easy goal for us, right? Because we write that the child will use total communication for a variety of pragmatic reasons. And now we can do whatever we want in our sessions. Opens the doors to doing whatever we want. So that's a great goal. If they're a Gestalt language processor, we will write different goals for moving through different stages. We will write goals for a lot of different goals for self-advocacy, which is obviously great for kids of all ages. So those are all really good, solid goals. And if you take any standard like social skills, conversation type goal, you can probably change it into a self-advocacy goal pretty easily. So it's not that crazy, like taking a goal and completely changing it. A lot of the times it's just changing the way that it's written, kind of like the example I gave you with topic maintenance. So I hope that was helpful. If you want to learn more about goal writing and assessing in neurodiversity affirming ways and all things neurodiversity affirming, reminder that Chris and I opened the NeuroAffirm Therapy Academy not too long ago, just several months ago. It's an amazing community of 1,000 therapists. It is designed for SLPs, I will say. We have had other therapists come in and join, which is fun because then they bring their 2 cents. But full transparency, the trainings are really created by SLPs for SLPs. Doesn't mean that they can't be beneficial for other people. We do have parents who are in there too, but primarily for SLPs, designed for SLPs, and it's just tons of content and trainings on how to use neurodiversity affirming practices. It's the resources that Chris and I use every single day. It's things that we send home with our families in our clinic. It's things that Chris has with like his goals and what he sends home and resources. And it's just so much great content, lots of CEUs available for you there, tons. There's a live call every single month with our autistic mentor, so you can get your questions answered. And we have an awesome, engaged community online as well. So I will put a link below in case that is something that you have not yet joined us in. Make sure to join us before the end of the year. We still have founding member pricing. It is $97 for a year. Okay. It's so much value. I will tell you that. And we really just wanted to make it affordable and accessible for everyone to learn about neurodiversity affirming practices. But we have tons of different trainings on there: AAC, sensory, emotional regulation, self-advocacy, just neurodiversity affirming assessments, goal writing, all of that. So much good stuff in there. So if you want to learn more about this, make sure to join us in there. All right, everyone. Till next time. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in to Making the Shift. If you enjoyed this episode, it would mean the world to us if you could like, subscribe, share it with a friend. Our only goal is to spread neurodiversity affirming approaches all over the world, and we can only do that with your help. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you next time.